So what are some ways that you think that, for example, illustrators, someone who has no idea how animation works, what are some ways that they could maybe incorporate animation into their work, like using Procreate Dreams, for example?
Yeah, I feel I've seen it a lot on social media. Of course, we also know it for sure how Instagram was pushing more reels or more moving images rather than posts, which is true. You don't see posts so much. You can take a already made illustration, even if you didn't think about animation before, and find some elements that can be moved a little bit. Doesn't require any crazy movement. I feel sometimes it's really a little loop or something very small can bring to life the whole scene. And for a character, for example, the most basic but also effective thing is to animate a blink. The blink of the eye
Mhm.
brings the character instantly to life. And it's incredible. It only takes 3 drawings. You have the open eye, the half closed eye, and the closed eye. Usually you keep it for 2 frames each drawing, so on twos it's called. And this brings so much life into a still illustration already. But if it's a landscape or if you have some elements, even if you have a clock and you move the how you call it, thing on the clock,
Cody,
that's
can you
already
tell us what that's called?
I know.
The legs?
Now I'm having a blank.
Well,
Yeah.
we got it.
Yeah.
We're gonna put an image
Yeah.
here. Yes, what I want to say is that just a little basic animation could bring an illustration to life. Sometimes even a texture flickering on top could also help to give this kind of lively atmosphere. Or clouds moving. Clouds moving is incredible. They also don't require basically also any animation skill. You put the first keyframe where you start, last keyframe where you finish, and the thing moving in the background helps. Of course, this is super basic, but then you could start moving other kind of objects. Maybe there is a sort of camera movement that's awesome, or some car moving. Anything that doesn't really require to redraw the object or the character. It's minimal and has a good impact. Of course, if you have a character in an action pose, that's a problem because you will notice that it's not moving. But if every character is relaxed, maybe there's someone with on a cafe and it's not doing any action, you could just animate the smoke from the cafe, the steam, and that's already great.
Those are all great ideas.
Yeah, it's a really good examples. I hope people get inspiration from that. This week at the agency where I work, we're like updating the branding a little bit. And basically, I'm working on the website and showing like what kind of services we offer. So you've got 3D design, you've got web design, illustration, and every little category or service has a little illustration of a little, like a person doing something, one of those services, one of those industries. To give it some more life, I turned all of those into animations on the website, and it makes a huge difference. I immediately thought of Giulia, which class was it? Your sticker class that I took that I loved. I learned so much from that. So I applied the boiling effect that you explained, where
Right.
the images are moving slightly. And I just applied that to all those different little icons. And immediately it just brightens everything up. The client loves looking at that. And it shows so much more personality immediately. And it's such a simple way of making illustrations move as well.
Actually, it's great that you mentioned the boiling effect because that's even simpler and even better. Boiling effect is just having the same illustration redrawn, just slightly flickering, as I said before. And it's the texture effect I mentioned before, just giving the impression that the whole illustration is alive. This helps, it's true, so much. It's capturing the eye, I guess. And I also actually I used the same stickers recently. I updated my Patreon, and in Patreon you have to give a sort of cover for each tier. And if you can upload there a GIF, it's much more effective, I feel, because again, it's moving and it attracts the eyes. And GIFs are also great because they are loops. So you don't need a large amount of frames or a large amount of drawings. sometimes 3, 4 in the case of boiling effect is enough.
Okay.
Also with text, I noticed this. If you have to have a title somewhere, maybe, in the beginning of a reel, for example, or if you just redraw the title 3 times and you let the letters move a little bit, it's so much better than just a plain text.
Oh yeah, I've used that in lettering for sure, and there's
Yeah.
such a nice way to add to the atmosphere and make yeah, like you said, everything come alive a little bit more. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we would also love to just talk a little bit more about the future of animation. It seems that, as we said, right, like animation is becoming more accessible with programs like Procreate Dreams. What do you think the future of the animation industry is going to look like? Let's say 3, 5 years. What's going to change?
Well, it's a big question. I'm not sure
It's a
I'm
little bit big.
the
Sorry.
right person to answer this, but I can tell you what I'm seeing already. Now, you also said animation industry, and I think about films if you say this, but maybe, I don't know, are we talking about commercial work or artistic work? I don't know. So I'm going to talk
Both,
about
I guess.
everything.
Yeah,
Yes.
talk about everything.
For example, I'm talking about AI now,
Mhm.
and we saw it more and more appearing, of course, controversial topic. I can tell you that, for example, some animation festivals banned completely AI, and in general, the artistic community is not, as you probably know, not very happy about it, or at least, with all the right considerations about copyright, etc. So there are, for example, in the artistic or in the filmmaking branch of animation, it's been so far a little bit banned. Even though I did see some festival having a category, as I mentioned before, the graduation films category or the commissions film category, there was an AI category for animated films made by AI completely. There's that. I'm curious to see how that goes, how that develops. I'm really curious also to see how good it will get, because at the moment I don't feel in animation and storytelling that it's in a good point yet. But I
Mhm.
do hang out with AI people they do believe that it's gonna get better and better, and I'm curious to see that for
AI
sure.
people. It's a funny way to say it.
Yeah, all kind of machine learning experts and people involved in that, which
Mhm.
I feel they probably know always a little bit in advance what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
So this, and in terms of commercial work, also in that sense, I noticed magazines or other agencies, they do write if an image is made by AI.
Mhm.
I haven't seen animations yet, but I'm mentioning still images now, because in the co-working where I am, there they have a chat where we write to each other about who's cooking today, etc. And they do post there. They're mainly illustrators there. They're mainly editorial illustrators, and they do notice more than me when an AI editorial is published. And of course, it's a little scary because it makes people think that their source of income is going to not to be so sure anymore. So I'm interested to see how that goes also for animation, because that, as I mentioned, I didn't see that yet, but I do imagine, as I said before, that some of those basic animations can be easily automated. And actually, I had this conversation some months ago when the AI exploded, which is quite interesting. I'm gonna put it out there and let me know what you think. We were talking about how this easy kind of easier motion design animation can be automated, if not made completely by the machine, can be much easier to do, for example, in house in an advertising agency rather than hiring a professional motion designer. In a way, that's alarming, and I understand why, because as we said before, with independent films and film festivals, creatives balance the creative personal work with commercial work, which is the one supporting financially the rest. And that's also what I've been doing so far. I've been also teaching, but also looking for clients so that I have time to make my own short films, which are not paid, are my free time, or you try everything you can to support your extra work. And of course, it's alarming to think, oh, now the commercial work can be easily taken or done by a machine. So how is the art, the actual art, so the films, or going to be created? The topic, or like the idea, or like what people were talking that day that we were brainstorming, was like, it would be nice, or it would be necessary maybe, if countries or institutions, they would create or make better the grants and the supports that there are already there, like regional support or cultural funds, to actually make independent art. There are already, of course, and that's what we all filmmakers do and try to apply to funds, to film funds or regional funds, or etc. Artistic residency, all these things, they are already there, but they're of course not enough at the moment to allow an artist to make the film or whatever project. So maybe the moment the AI takes all or most of commercial work, which is the financial source usually, it would be nice to keep art alive, to have more of those funds.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is quite utopic, I know, but I also feel like people and the community could and should value the art per se, like not the art for commercial goal, but a film which is independent, or a painting which is not made to sell anything, and try to vote for it, or to support it. So again, I don't know, this is just me sharing some thoughts, but it's not, of course, a prediction that I can do based on the market. Of course, we all said it many times this month, what we can do is to evolve with the technology, adapt to it, be flexible. This we still do. But yeah, of course, there's more than that, I feel. It's also about, do people and society care about art? And that's from a artistic point of view. Of course, if we're talking about just commercial work, I feel it's more about evolving so that you will become the one working with AI.
Yeah.
One of the few, I don't know, because for sure it's going to be less people than
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
because it makes it faster and more efficient. And so, yeah, I don't know.
Time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be like a very good thing for the animation industry. It could be, I don't know, we'll see. I cannot imagine what the future holds, because, as I said, it's unknown. So, of course, the unknown is worrying you. But I do want to keep a positive attitude and see how that goes.
Yeah. I also
Yeah.
think overall, maybe that's just very optimistic, but I do think people care about art, about creativity. And I'm hoping what you said about grants, about hopefully governments like protecting artists, protecting art, knowing when to step in. Hopefully that will happen more and more.
Yes. And honestly, I also think it is already very hard for an independent artist to make time and to make side personal projects. Maybe it's not going to change that much. Instead of looking for commercial works, for example, in an advertising agency, in order to make your film, you will do something else in order to make your film. And that's also fine.
Yeah.
I want to say, before I jump into the softwares I use, I find this topic always interesting, because I do understand people and also students on Skillshare be very interested in the type of software. But sometimes it makes me smile a little bit, because or like also even on Instagram comments, people see a post, see an illustration or an animation, and the first question is, which software? Which could be interesting to know, of course, but I do believe that it doesn't matter too much.
It's the
In the
hack
end,
thing. People want to know it's got to be magic. It's magic. What's the hack? Tell me,
yeah,
I have 10 seconds to do this.
yeah. It goes together with what we said before, like realizing what's behind animation. Behind animation is not a button like animate this dog, is to understand the movement of the dog and the 5 steps of a walk cycle. And this is the theory. And the theory you get from, not from a software. So softwares are great. And as we said before, also it's great that they are evolving. Some of them, they make things a little easier or a little friendlier. But when someone or also students ask me what kind of software do I need, I tell them you could start with anything. You could start with literally with a piece of paper and pencil. But if you want software, usually Animate, which is part of the Adobe suite, is quite good because it comes with all the other software, so it's more affordable. When I was in school, we were using Toon Boom. Toon Boom is one of the 2 big softwares in the animation industry. It was early on more for vector animation or puppet animation, but now it also transitioned. It could be also raster. And the other big one was TV Paint, which is mainly raster, more brushy, more similar to Photoshop. So Toon Boom and TV Paint are the big 2 softwares of the industry. I'm talking 2D because I'm a 2D animator. Otherwise, if we're talking 3D, I would have to go into Blender and Maya and things I don't really know. And those are for the actual animation. And then usually for the compositing, which is the second step, you can go into After Effects or DaVinci or other softwares that I don't use. So what I use mainly, since I'm a freelancer, has been the Adobe suite because money, because a TV Paint license or a Toon Boom license for me as a single freelancer is not ideal. It's expensive, and the moment I have to collaborate with other freelancers, which change all the time, it's not a fixed team. It's harder to find the same software that we all agree with. We can exchange files. So for me, it's been Animate for many, many years. And now that there is Procreate Dreams, I'm trying implementing it a little bit. But for the big things, it's still Animate at the moment. For example, if I have to start a production, let's say if everything works well and next year I get film funds production to make my new film, in that case, I will receive funds, some money, and I will make a team, and we could decide all together as a team, let's buy 5 licenses of TV Paint, and we all work in TV Paint. So as an animator, it's good to be updated with the softwares so that you can jump from one project to the other. But as a one-man band freelancer, for me, it was great to be flexible and use what it's most common and easy to use, which is Animate.
I like what you said about how, I mean, for movement, for animation, any program will do, right? Even just paper and pencil. Like you can find so many ways to start with that, but you do need to know the theory.
It's almost like if I would ask you, I want lettering, tell me what's the best software in the market.
And people
or what's
ask,
the best?
what's the heck?
Yeah.
Tell me. Yeah, and just
Of
like,
course, I mean, I
paper,
understand.
pen.
Yeah, exactly. Or for sure, maybe a brush is giving you, but that's an extra thing. It's a texture. It's something extra. To learn the basics, to learn how to do, for example, a morphing loop. That's also what I said in my Skillshare classes. I always try to like give the skill that you can apply to every tool that you have.
Yeah.
Because also I don't like it to be limited to the software that you have, of the power of your machine. It doesn't really matter. It shouldn't matter. Also, it's not like I'm partnering with Photoshop or with Procreate Dreams. So I'm just
Creativity
teaching.
first, right?
Yeah. And it's also good and fair that you could learn something that you can apply to different situations. And it's valuable in 10 years as well.
And that's a good point, like creativity first.
Your answer reminds me a little bit with you talk about the theory is really the most important part, because I remember before we like in preparing to talk to you, my son, he's interested in animation, and I was like, so what kind of questions would you like ask an animator? he has an interest in it. And he's like, well, how do you do it? And I was like, well, I don't think she can go into that much detail on how you do it.
Don't have
But one of the
time.
things that he did ask though, yeah. But one of the things I thought that was really interesting is like, do you have to know how to draw? And I was like, that just I was like, well, I'm pretty sure, yeah, you should know how to draw. Yeah, that's pretty important. And that goes into like what you're saying with theory and the basics of any type of creative craft, really.
Yeah, well, it might surprise. It depends what kind of animation he wants to do, but it might surprise you. Some animators they tell they can draw, which are, for example, 3D animators or motion designers, because they never really have to draw the character. The 3D animators, they're moving the character. They're more like a puppeteer in that sense. So it
Oh, good
depends.
point.
So even then,
Touche.
yeah.
Yeah, I have some classmates.
Depends.
They are 3D animators or stop motion animators as well. It's the same. They say they cannot draw, which is not true. But I think that when they talk with 2D animators who are drawing every day, they feel like I'm not a good anime or I'm not a good drawer. But it's not true. It's just a different perspective. Depends what kind of animation you want to do.
Mhm.
Touche. Good point.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so I don't know how old is your son, but you could try with stop motion first, which is also how I approach animation, which is just to take pictures of objects or cutouts, and that will teach you about the timing and the spacing, which is one of the two principles, basic principles of animation, and that's already a great start. You start to understand how movement works, and that animation is a sequence of images.
I
Yeah,
like
I
that.
had to definitely be like, you need to watch our episode, learn all about it.
I like that, like putting the theory and the creativity first. That reminds me as well of Cody, for example. You use so much traditional media and for textures and for your own work. And that is also like a way of like, I feel like incorporating that creativity into the work and letting it work for you instead of relying solely on a program.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it is also for you like that. Maybe you use InDesign, I don't know, mainly, but you could also work with other softwares. It's not that without the software you couldn't do your job. You do
Yeah.
lettering on blackboards as well.
Hmm.
So it's not so linked to the tool.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. Yeah. The idea that the ideation, the creativity should come first, but whatever tool or output that is, it shouldn't matter quite as much. And I wanted to ask you a question before I forget. Before you were talking about film festivals, let's say
Yes.
someone is really interested in getting to know animation. Are these
Yes.
film festivals like open to the public? Could you go there, or is it like Fashion Week and you cannot get in?
No, they are usually also open to the public. It's true that probably, okay, there are different festivals. There are some very small, maybe one little cinema, and there are other huge, which are international with thousands of people. So this differs, of course, but usually there is also general public accreditation for regular people. But it's true that, but maybe it's good for also for regular people to know. It's true that 90% or so of the people going are usually from the industry, so they are professionals. But it shouldn't matter. There are some events that are only for professionals, like pitching events or this kind of things. But to go to the cinema and watch, most of the times is for everybody. And it's actually very good to see locals attending. And now I want to say, because my films were often in the children competition, usually the local schools partner with the festivals and they bring the classes to the screenings. And that
Oh,
was for me as a director
Oh,
the chance to meet local kids and yeah, to see the how, because I travel into different countries, see also how different cultures or different countries react to your film.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. That's
yeah.
cool.
In which city are you based, Cody?
Well, I'm in a small town that's outside of a bigger city. Columbia, Missouri is the bigger city.
I was asking because if I knew any festival there. I'm sure there are a bunch. So I
There's
don't.
there's True False. True False is in Colombia in February.
Here you
I've
go.
heard it's a big one, but yeah.
I'll check out some over here as well. I'm sure there is some, but
Oh yes,
yeah.
definitely. And if you're in Madrid,
Is
right? There was very recently, like a week ago or two, the biggest motion design festival. I think it's in Barcelona. It's called Off Fest.
Oh yeah.
That's huge. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
motion design, though.
Motion design. Okay.
More
Okay.
commercial, but very graphic, very also typography, things you might
Yeah.
like.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind. That's good. Yeah. I heard it was good this year.
Mhm.
I think we covered mostly everything.
Yeah, also I guess
Or I can
Julia, is
do.
there anything else that you wanted to mention that people should know
Yeah.
about animation?
Oh, good one. Yeah.
I can answer
You
as
only
well.
have 10 seconds.
I don't know. We already said, I think, something about it. The fact, the general public will realize maybe now even more how the animation process work, having the access, for example, to Procreate Dreams and being able to play around with the timeline, etc. Animation is fun. I wish everybody could try it, and I enjoy when I make workshops with kids or with adults. I really enjoy to introduce people to this world because it's a way to bring your creativity to life, like literally to move it, to give it a breath of life. And it's a great feeling, I think. So not just to make it into your day-to-day work, but even as a fun weekend activity, I feel like animation could be a good skill to learn. Yeah. So yeah, I wish maybe more people would be interested to learn how to do a walk cycle, how to animate things, and maybe start bringing to life their own stories and make the industry bigger and stronger.
Yeah, good point. I
It's
like
a
that.
small industry, which is nice and cozy, but of course, I feel like the more the better. And
Mhm.
why not? No, I said join the dark side,
Side, yeah.
which is a little bit dark. Like, I have to say, animation is really a sort of masochist work. Sometimes we tell each other, animators, because it takes so long to make just a short
Mm,
film. But if we keep doing it, it's because it's rewarding, I feel. So
yeah. To make something out of nothing, that's crazy. I
it's
think of
quite
all the
giving.
stuff that I've done, especially the animations, the things that move somehow like they attract me the most. I'm the most proud of that kind of work. So I can only imagine. That's very special.
So thank you. It was a nice chat. I'm happy. I
Yeah,
hope
thank you.
for the listeners. And yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and everything. That was awesome.
Mm.
So thank you so much, Julia. And that was it for today. But stay tuned for another episode of Brushing Up. A wrap, and that's it.
Thank you.
Awesome.